The wife of a rich man fell sick, and when she felt that her end drew near, she called her only daughter to her bedside and said, "Always be a good girl, and I will look down from heaven and watch over you." Soon afterwards she died. The little girl went every day to her grave and wept, and was always good and kind to everybody around her. The snow fell and spread a beautiful white covering over the grave, but by the time spring came, and the sun had melted away the snow, her father had married another wife. This new wife had 2 daughters of her own, that she brought home with her. They were fair in face, but foul at heart, and things were now rough for the poor little girl. "What's the maid doing in the living room?" they asked. "Only those who work deserve to eat. Get her back to the kitchen." Then they took away her fine clothes and left as they gave her an old grey frock to put on, and turned her into the kitchen. She was made to work very hard there, to rise early before daylight, to bring the water, to make the fire, to cook and to wash. Besides that, the sisters plagued her in all sorts of ways and laughed at her. In the evening, when she was tired, she had no bed to lie down on, but was made to lie by the hearth among the ashes. This, of course, made her always dirty and dusty, so they called her Cinderella. It happened once that the father was going to the fair, and asked his wife's daughters what he should bring them. "Fine clothes," said the first. "Pearls and diamonds," cried the second. "Now, child," he said to his own daughter, "what will you have?" "The first twig, dear father, that brushes against your hat when you turn to come home," she said. Then he bought the fine clothes and pearls and diamonds the first 2 had asked for, and on his way home, as he rode through a green copse, a hazel twig brushed against him, and almost pushed off his hat, so he broke it off and kept it. When he got home, he gave it to his daughter. She took it to her mother's grave and planted it. She cried so much that it was watered with her tears, and there it grew and became a fine tree. 3 times every day she went to it and cried, and soon a little bird came and built its nest upon the tree, and talked with her, and watched over her, and brought her whatever she wished for. Now it happened that the king of that land held a feast, which was to last 3 days, and out of those who came to it, his son was to choose a bride for himself. Cinderella's 2 sisters were asked to come, so they called her up and said, "Now, comb our hair, brush our shoes, and tie our sashes for us. We are going to dance at the king's feast." Then she did as she was told, but when all was done she could not help crying, for she thought to herself she would have liked very much to have gone with them to the ball, and at last she begged her stepmother to let her go. "You, Cinderella, who has nothing to wear, no clothes at all, and who cannot even dance, you want to go to the ball?" she said, and when she kept on begging, she said at last, to get rid of her, "I will throw this dishful of peas into the ash heap, and if in 2 hours' time you have picked them all out, you will go to the feast too." Then she threw the peas down among the ashes, but Cinderella ran out of the back door into the garden, and cried out to whomever would listen. Then 2 white doves came at first, flying in at the kitchen window. Next came 2 turtle doves, and after them came all the little birds under heaven, chirping and fluttering in, and they flew down into the ashes. The little doves stooped their heads down and set to work, picking, and then the others began to pick. They soon picked out all the good grain, and put it into a dish, but left the ashes. Long before the end of the hour the work was quite done, and they all flew out of the window again. Then Cinderella brought the dish to her stepmother, overjoyed at the thought that now she would go to the ball. But her stepmother said, "No, no, you have no clothes and cannot dance, you will not go." And when Cinderella begged very hard to go, she said, "If you can in 1 hour's time pick 2 of those dishes of peas out of the ashes, you will go too." She thought she would at least get rid of her that way. So she took 2 dishes of peas and threw them into the ashes. But Cinderella went out into the garden at the back of the house and cried out just as before to whomever would listen. Then 2 white doves came in through the kitchen window. Next came 2 turtle doves, and after them came all the little birds under heaven, chirping and hopping about. And they flew down into the ashes, making short work of the task. And before half an hour had passed, everything was done, and out they flew again. Cinderella took the dishes to her stepmother, rejoicing to think that she would now go to the ball. But her stepmother, going back on her word, said, "It is no use, you cannot go. You have no clothes and cannot dance. You'd only put us to shame." And off she went with her 2 daughters to the ball. Now, when everybody was gone and nobody was left at home, Cinderella went sorrowfully and sat down under the hazel tree and cried out, "Shake, shake, hazel tree, gold and silver over me." Then her friend the bird flew out of the tree, bringing a gold and silver dress and slippers of the finest silk. She put them on and followed her sisters to the feast, but they did not recognize her and thought it must be some strange princess. She looked so fine and beautiful in her rich clothes, and they never once thought of Cinderella, taking it for granted that she was safe at home in the dirt. The king's son soon came up to her, took her by the hand and danced with her, and no one else, and he never left her side. When anyone else came to ask her to dance, he said, "This lady is dancing with me." Thus they danced late into the night, and when she wanted to go home, the king's son said, "I will go with you and see that you get home safely," secretly wanting to see where the beautiful girl lived. But she slipped away from him unawares and ran off towards home. And as the prince followed her, she jumped up into the pigeon house and shut the door. Then he waited till Cinderella's father came home and told him that the unknown girl who had been at the feast was hiding in the pigeon house. But when they had finally broken open the door, they found no one inside. As her father came back into the house, Cinderella was lying, as she always did, in her dirty frock by the ashes, and her dim little lamp was burning in the chimney. She had run as quickly as she could through the pigeon house and onto the hazel tree, and had taken off her beautiful clothes and put them beneath the tree, that the bird might carry them away, and had lain down again amid the ashes in her little grey frock. The next day, when the feast was again held and her father, stepmother and sisters were gone, Cinderella went to the hazel tree and said, "Shake, shake, hazel tree, gold and silver over me." The bird came and brought an even finer dress than the one she had worn the day before, and when she wore it to the ball, everyone wondered at her beauty. The king's son, who was waiting for her, took her by the hand and danced with her. When anyone asked her to dance, he said, as before, "This lady is dancing with me." When night came, she wanted to go home, and the king's son followed her just like before, so he might see which house she went into. But she sprang away from him into the garden behind her father's house. In this garden stood a fine, large pear tree full of ripe fruit, and Cinderella, not knowing where to hide herself, jumped up into it without being seen. Then the king's son lost sight of her and could not find out where she was gone, but waited till her father came home and said to him, "The unknown lady who danced with me has slipped away, and I think she must have sprung into the pear tree." The father thought to himself, "Can it be Cinderella?" So he had an axe brought, and they cut down the tree, but there was no one to be found. And when they came back into the kitchen, there lay Cinderella among the ashes. She had slipped down on the other side of the tree, and carried her beautiful clothes back to the bird at the hazel tree, putting back on her little grey frock. The third day, when her father and stepmother and sisters were gone, she went again into the garden and said, "Shake, shake, hazel tree, gold and silver over me." Then her kind friend the bird brought a dress even finer than the last one, and slippers made of solid gold, so that when she came to the feast no one knew what to say, except to wonder at her beauty. Then her kind friend the bird brought a dress even finer than the last one, and slippers made of solid gold, so that when she came to the feast no one knew what to say, except wonder at her beauty. And the king's son danced with nobody but her, and when anyone else asked her to dance, he said, "This lady is my partner, sir." When night came, she wanted to go home, and the king's son wanted to go with her, saying to himself, "I will not lose her this time." However, she again slipped away from him, although in such a hurry that she dropped her left golden slipper upon the stairs. The prince took the shoe, and the next day he went to the king, his father, and said, "I will take for my wife the lady who fits this golden slipper." Both the sisters were overjoyed to hear it, for they had beautiful feet, and had no doubt that they could wear the golden slipper. The eldest went first into the room with the slipper, wanting to try it on, and her mother stood by. But her big toe would not fit, and the shoe was much too small for her. Then the mother gave her a knife and said, "Never mind, cut it off. When you are queen, you will not care about toes. You will not want to walk." So the silly girl cut off her big toe, and thus squeezed into the shoe, and went to the king's son. Then he took her for his bride, and set her beside him on his horse, and rode home with her. But on their way home they had to pass by the hazel tree that Cinderella had planted, and on the branch sat a little dove singing, back again, look to the shoe. The shoe is too small and not made for you. Prince, Prince, look again for your bride, for she's not the true one that sits by your side. Then the prince got down and looked at her foot, and he saw by the blood that streamed from it what a trick she had played him. So he turned his horse round and brought the false bride back to her home and said, "This is not the right bride. Let the other sister try and put on the slipper." Then she went into the room and got her foot into the shoe, all but the heel, which was too large. But her mother squeezed it in till the blood came, and took her to the king's son, and he set her down by his side and rode away with her. But when they came to the hazel tree, the little dove was still sat there singing, back again, look to the shoe is too small and not made for you. Prince, Prince, look again for your bride, for she's not the true one that sits by your side." Then he looked down and saw that so much blood streamed from the shoe that her white stockings were quite red. So he turned his horse and brought her back again too. "This is not the true bride," he said to the father. "Have you no other daughters?" "No," he said. "There is only a little dirty Cinderella here, the child of my first wife. I am sure she cannot be the bride." The prince told him to send her anyway, but the mother said, "No, no, she is much too dirty. She will not dare to show herself." The prince would not hear of it. Cinderella first washed her face and hands, and then went in and curtsied to him, and he held out the golden slipper. Then she took her clumsy shoe off her left foot, and put on the golden slipper, and it fitted her as if it had been made for her. And when he drew near and looked at her face, he knew, and said, "It's you. You are the one." But the mother and both the sisters were frightened, turning pale with anger as he took Cinderella on his horse and rode away with her. And when they came to the hazel tree, the white dove sang, "Home, home, look at the shoe. Princess, the shoe was made for you. Prince, Prince, take home your bride, for she is the true one that sits by your side." And when the dove had finished singing, it came flying and perched upon her right shoulder, and like that they went home together.